What patterns do you find in great movies?
Well, arguably, you could say that every movie is the same story being told over and over again, that there's really only one type of story. But in terms of like actual patterns, I just saw a film that really stuck with me, which is I think it's called Luckiest Girl Ever or something like that. It's on Netflix.
Oh, with Mila Kunis?
Yeah.
Yes, I
Oh
wanted
my
to see
God.
that. I wanted
Really
to see that.
dark, like trigger warning. I can't code it in enough of those.
Okay.
I didn't realize that going in, and I wish there'd been a little bit more of a like, are you sure you want to watch this? Because watching it was like, oh my God.
Right. And it's a great commercial. Sorry to interrupt, but that it suckered me in. I'm like, I have to see this.
Tell me more. Yeah, it definitely, it was brilliant. It was the best film that I've seen in a really long time. In terms of films that have stuck with me, I think it's bravery and just like getting in there and really talking about, for me, it's like the stuff where it's like, wow, you really went there and you were really showing this like gross, icky side of life that people are really afraid to talk about. And you did it in such a brave way. It doesn't have to be gross. I think just bravery with handling your subject matter. Again, that specificity, really being like, I am not going to be afraid to tell the story. Even with the most innocuous story, I think that people tend to, you can tell when a room filled of executives like made decisions about a movie as opposed to a creative. No offense to all executives out there, no offense to you, but you can tell when a committee made a movie rather than like a human, because the committee is like, we're based on off our data. This is the Teletubbies, right? The Teletubbies was literally written by a computer algorithm where the computer was like, here are all the things babies like. And that's what we got, right? It makes no sense. The day that I learned that was the day that my mind was blown. I'm like, okay, now that hellscape of a show makes a lot more sense to me as to like why that's the product of a committee presenting research. That's what the Teletubbies is, as opposed to something like Luckiest Girl Alive that is just really specifically about sexual assault, is about a school shooter, is about these things that we see and hear about in the news and in our personal lives every single day, and not shying away from that.
Was there a moral to that story?
Yeah, the moral to that one was don't try to hide from your trauma. Like, your trauma is inherently a part of who you are. And when you own your story and you own your truth, that's when you're able to more authentically live your life.
Do you think there has to be a moral to every great story?
No, I don't. I think that sometimes you can tell a really great story and let the audience decide. And that can be really powerful.
And that's the beauty of a lot of art house cinema.
Is that you're like, weird. How do I feel about that? Go home and think about it. That to me, that's just critical thinking. A really important skill, for sure.
You've talked about knowing who you are and what do you want to say to the world. When did you figure that out? When did you figure out this is kind of my mission statement? Or maybe that's not, I'm projecting that onto you, but I think that's a beautiful thing to really like have that as your, who am I? What do I want to say to the world? And that if I know who I am, no one can take that away from me.
I'm not sure there was a specific moment. I think it's just been a thing that slowly unfolded. I think by the time I was a young adult in my early 20s, I knew that I wasn't happy with who I was. And for me, that turned into an internal journey of like, who am I? Literally, who am I? What do I care about? How do I identify, right? Like what identities make sense for me? How do I see myself? Slowly going on that journey. And then I didn't really get specific about what it is I wanted to do until the first time I actually produced something. I think sitting in that chair of like, ooh, I actually have to think about this. I don't just blindly show up and perform a thing, which is something I'd been doing since I was a little kid. Really being like the director of sorts of a ship and how that ship is moving and being like, how do I want this to go from start to finish? How do I want people to receive this 10 years from now? That is when I started thinking about oh, maybe this is what I want to do. It's more than being like, I want to be an actor in Hollywood. It's like, oh, I want to tell a very specific subset of story. And I am drawn to these types of story, these types of characters, and here's how I would do this, and starting to think critically about those things. Like if I saw a movie that was not good or a TV show that was just no, I would be like, how would I do it differently? If I am going to critique another artist's work, I have to have an opinion of how I would do it. So then starting to think about yourself in that context, I think, is when you start to get to, what do I want to do?
So knowing who you are and standing up in front of an audience, let's say the symphony, and singing with all eyes on you, versus knowing who you are and being a producer or possibly someday a director.
Yeah, maybe.
Are they the same thing? Or they're different hats almost?
To like put myself back on that stage and be like...
Because that sounds like a scary thing. All eyes on you.
Not really. No, it's the same thing. I mean, of course, as a producer, it's over like a longer period of time, right? It's like, I've been working on this script for years. Oh my God, it's done. There she goes. Goodbye. And then talking about it for forever after, because it's a thing that you worked on and spent years on, so you're not going to stop talking about it. It's just that the time frame is different, as opposed to the symphony concert you're referring to, where I was practicing every day for that for 4 or 5 months. And then I got up there and it was like, time to do it. And it's interesting because it's like you got to go into a different zone to do a show like that, just side note. But it's like you don't have time to be acutely aware of your surroundings and be afraid. It's time to just be like, here we are. Here are all these people expecting this to not be terrible, so I better deliver. Yeah, I mean, for me, it ends up kind of being the same thing. I really do believe that the more you are your authentic self and the more you're like living in alignment with your values, the less you have to fear. Because I can just be like, here's who I am. And whether I'm talking to like a wildly famous person or a person that I met at CVS, it's the same, If I'm singing on a stage to 5,000 people, or if I am sitting in a room very intimately having a conversation with a lovely human, it's the same thing. Yeah. Just being present, which I think most people don't give themselves the permission to do or be.
I think it's harder too today because there's so many ways for people to try to access you, or there's so many things to be thinking about. And
there are, and I'm not afraid of, I guess, accessibility. I know that's definitely at the celebrity tier of the industry. There's a lot of reasons that people go into a more inaccessible space. I hope I can always be accessible. I had the pleasure of meeting Keegan-Michael Key at the Webby Awards this year. He and his wife were just really chill and lovely. Like a lot of stars kind of like came in for their award and left. And he just like sat with everyone. And if people came up, he talked to them. And I was like, this is a balance that I want, in terms of you just saying accessibility. It just made me think of this. Like I always want to be reachable. I always want to be accessible. You never know who might be someone that is a dream collaborator of yours who hasn't been born yet, or who hasn't woken up to who they are yet. I think, God, I just have to say that living super authentically is just the way to be. It's just so much easier and it feels so much better to like be in your body and have a conversation, or be in your body and sing on a big stage, right? Or be in your body and be shooting on set that's really high pressure. It's gonna be more fun every time, dare I say. Things could be fun.
Was it always this way for you?
No, I used to have a really big problem with disassociation. I would just be like, not in my body, I'm somewhere else. Something I haven't really talked about in an interview, but I struggle with depersonalization and derealization, which means that sometimes if I'm not careful, like the world is not the way you see the world for me. It's just, I will like see stuff that isn't there. And that's just a symptom of like really chronic bad disassociation from like poor mental health in my life. So it's just an active choice to be present.
Now, as scary as that sounds, does that actually help with performance on stage?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it does. I think So much of performing, whether it be acting, singing, stand-up, I mean, it's the wide variety, dancing and tap dancing, the wide variety of performance arts that there are. At the end of the day, your body is your instrument. So if you're cut off from your body, you can't really use it. If I'm like right now, I can feel the chair that I'm sitting on. I can experience the air in the room. Like I am present. I can tell that I am hungry. Like I am fully present in who I am and where I am. And so I can more easily have a conversation with you and know that everything I'm saying is coming from a real place. Sorry, microphone. That's critical for performing. If I'm going to inhabit another person, I have to be able to inhabit myself, right? How can I play Mary Sue effectively if I can't live as Sheila effectively?
I was watching My Week with Marilyn. It's great. It's also very sad. There was a line in there, maybe I'm just projecting it, but that the people that are great at playing other people, it's because they don't want to play themselves. Maybe they didn't say that. Maybe I'm thinking that.
I've definitely heard that before. I think it can go both ways. I think there are some people who their greatest joy and escape is that they get to inhabit someone else and that's healing for them. I would argue that it's healing and they like it because it's the one time they get to be themselves in a place that's safe. That's what I'm going to argue. I think that acting, at the very least, singing, all of these things, storytelling, performative storytelling is really interesting because it's about finding all the ways that we are the same. If I, as an actor, am looking at a script, and very often people get excited about me playing villains, which I love. But it's like, I'll read this like completely wackadoo backstory where it's like, wow, what has this person gone through? And on the surface, it's like, well, they were held in the mutant prison. So, and it's like, weird otherworldly stuff that is just not a part of our world, but is super fun. If I look at it from the surface, like, yeah, there's nothing relatable. But it's like strip back the layers and it's the same. Like generally there's something about that character that is similar to me. That's why someone's interested in seeing my take on it. And if I can get over the fear of being seen in that way and find ways to make it safe and play and maybe be like, cool, maybe there's a way I can make this villain more empathetic and relatable, then I think that's when really brilliant art comes through.